Well, welcome back to Christian Dementia Caregiving. And this podcast is for Bible-believing Christians to make their dementia caregiving journey easier for them, as well as give them practical tips and a way to think about their dementia caregiving journey, which is one of the reasons my company, which I don't mention very often, but my company is called Think Different Dementia, because I want people to think different about dementia and dementia caregiving. So it's really interesting to me that our thinking processes are extremely, extremely powerful. And today's episode is also a part of our series called 5 Quick Tips for Dementia Caregivers. Now, today's specific episode is going to be a little bit harder because today we're going to talk about a topic that is not talked about a lot in the dementia caregiving space, and that is sexually inappropriate behaviors. Now, sexually inappropriate behaviors related to dementia and dementia caregiving, when you're coming at this from a Christian perspective, does open up a separate conversation than just the normal conversations that people out in the care economy have about sexually inappropriate behaviors. Now, I want to preface today's conversation with the fact that we all are sinners, and we know that we are sinners, and we all have to work on controlling our own thought. And the Lord talks about the fact that when we have lust in our heart, we have already committed adultery, even though we haven't perpetrated the actual act of adultery. So most of us don't like to consider that we are all adulterers, because if you're honest with yourself, these thoughts come and go in our minds, and if we are redeemed of God and saved by Him, we suppress those thoughts. We suppress the actions. We don't take action on a lot of the thoughts that we have related to every one of the 10 commandments. We are all thieves. We are all adulterers. We are all liars. We are all of these things because we are sinners. Are you a Christian dementia caregiver struggling to cope? Does dementia caregiving really need to be this hard? I invite you to join our free monthly Ask the Dementia Coach meetup. Get personalized guidance and support from me, a pastor's wife, occupational therapist, and Christian dementia coach. By blending evidence-based strategies with Christian principles, you can radically improve your caregiving experience. Register now for our next session of Ask the Dementia Coach. We limit registrations, so don't miss out. Sign up today. And so today's conversation related to sexually inappropriate behavior and 5 quick tips for that, I just want to preface with that conversation that we all experience these thoughts, these things, but because we have our ability to control our own behavior still, which is our executive function in our brain, we are able to inhibit those particular gestures or behaviors. I'm not excusing the sexually inappropriate behaviors, but I just want to frame it from a biblical perspective that we should never be shocked about anything that anybody ever does. Because if we're honest with ourselves, we all are doing those things. We're just able to hide them from people because we are able to inhibit our own actions. Now, as a person is going through a dementia journey, they lose their inhibition switch. They lose their ability to filter. We all are able to filter what we say or what we do. And when we are believers, we filter it through the lens of a believing worldview, a Christian worldview. But that doesn't change the fact that we are still sinners. And so these thoughts, these sinful desires, these things that we experience, and I say this frequently, I hate the words challenging behaviors because they're really just normal behavior magnified. They're normal human behavior magnified. All of the sinful things, the anger, aggression, lying, hoarding, all of these things are just normal human behavior magnified because our brain is now no longer able to control our emotions or regulate our emotions, or we're not able to use our inhibition switch. So today's episode is vitally important for people to understand, and more than just from a sexually inappropriate behavior perspective. Now let's look at sexually inappropriate behavior. What is that? And really, honestly, it can be anything. It can be, the little old man who grabs somebody's bottom as they walk by, or a statement that is made, or, grabbing somebody's body parts when it's not asked. We all know what it looks like. But what we're going to talk about today for 5 quick tips related to sexually inappropriate behavior is that the first thing we need to understand is that part of this is due to actual physical changes in the brain, and they're not necessarily intentional actions. The person's not thinking through those actions like we would have been thinking through those actions and desires when we have our thinking processes normal. The difference is you and I can inhibit that behavior, even though we may think it. The person with dementia may not be able to inhibit that behavior. And approximately a quarter of people with some sort of dementia or neurocognitive disorder may actually show these signs and symptoms. And frequently, it is later on in the disease process. So understanding that this is twofold. There are actual physical changes to the brain, but also this person has always had, and if you're honest with yourself, you have had these thoughts and desires yourself before, but you were able to inhibit them. So this person is not changing. It's just that their inhibition switch is gone, and we're seeing what there, but for the grace of God, our own actions might be in the same situation. So it's not an excuse, and we do want to mitigate it, and we mitigate it by a few of the following recommendations or quick tips. The next quick tip is, if it happens, when it happens, you have to stay calm and don't overreact. Understand the person is not doing it intentionally to you. Say, for example, I'll never forget this. I was working with a woman on a Facebook Messenger, and she was helping her dad, and her dad would make comments to her that made her feel uncomfortable. And I asked her, "What are you telling your dad?" And she said, "Well, I tell my dad this is for between me and my husband." Her dad lived with her and her husband. And immediately when she said that to me, I'm like, Houston, that's part of the problem. Because what she didn't maybe realize or recognize is she might look like her mom looked when her mom and dad were younger. And now she's telling him, "Dad, this activity is just for me and my husband," and he thinks she's his wife. So we had to come up with a different strategy. But related to the 5 quick tips, just know the calmer you stay and you don't overreact will make this easier and better for you, as well as the person that you are helping. Don't shame the person. Don't argue with the person. Definitely do not laugh at the person when it happens. You just need to stay calm and keep yourself away from the situation. What I always used to do when I worked with people and they were sexually inappropriate is just be very, very firm and say, "You do not have permission to talk to me that way or touch me in that way," and just put up a very, very good boundary. It's almost like a shock technique to kind of bring them back to the moment. Another good quick tip or strategy is, in that moment, is don't say dad or mom or whatever. Use their formal name. Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith. No, and be very firm but calm. Using a person's formal name takes them out of a familiar situation. So that is one way that you can regain control of the specific situation. Then try to redirect their attention by, strategies that we talk about all the time, but oftentimes just staying calm and using a person's formal name will bring them into a different mindset and get you to be able to redirect them from whatever it is that they are saying or doing. If at all possible, you need to look, this is quick tip number 4, at things that may be a pattern. Look and see what time of day is, do a behavior log. We talk about behavior logs all the time on this particular program. So start to diarize a behavior diary or a behavior log. Look for the patterns, look for the triggers, and then pay attention to not putting yourself into that particular situation. It may mean switching care providers or caregivers. It may mean my husband has to help my dad with his bath instead of me helping my dad with his bath. I don't help my dad, but what I'm just trying to show is sometimes we need to change the environment and the people who are helping them. And then lastly is if the person really, really, really is struggling with sexually inappropriate behaviors, you need to talk to the doctor and see if there is medication that can help. I am not a big, strong proponent of medication. However, in certain situations, in certain specific times, medication might be the only thing that can be done to mitigate the response of a sexually inappropriate behavior. Now, I want to encourage you that even though these type of behaviors are very challenging, the calmer you are, the better it will go in that particular situation. But data is your friend. And that is why a dementia diary in this particular situation is vitally important. Now, I also want to encourage you to relate it to all of the quote unquote challenging behaviors that we've been discussing in these 5 quick tips for dementia caregivers series that I'm doing. All of them, when you come from a biblical perspective, are just inert signs and symptoms of a normal, sinful human heart. And when you reframe your own thinking to understanding that the actions, the things that you are seeing have always been there, but the person is now no longer able to inhibit them for themselves to a large degree. And if you're honest with yourself, you are exactly the same. We are all exactly the same. We all struggle with different things. Granted, maybe one person struggles more with pornography, somebody else may struggle more with anger, but we all carry these sinful traits in us. And our journey as caregivers, and I mention this frequently in our episodes, dementia caregiving is for my good and for my sanctification too. And it is hard to think about it in that particular way, specifically when we're talking about sexually inappropriate behaviors. But at the same time, if you remember that, it will make your caregiving journey easier. So I trust that you have found tremendous value in this very difficult topic today of sexually inappropriate behaviors, but I'm trying to bring it to you from a biblical perspective. So I hope this was helpful. If you haven't joined me yet, I invite you to come to our next Ask the Dementia Coach episode where we will sit down together in a Zoom room and you can ask me your specific questions. I only let 12 people register because I know not everybody shows up, so only 12 people can register. It is a small, intimate Zoom room where you can actually ask me and get your own coaching on a specific problem that you are having right now today in your dementia caregiving journey. The next one is August the 22nd, which is a couple of days from now. This episode goes out on August the 19th, so you still have time to register for the next Ask the Dementia Coach. It is co-creation. It is you and me on this podcast. It's not live. It'll be edited. You don't have to come on camera. You don't have to use your real name, but you can get real live support related to anything in your dementia caregiving journey. So this is a tremendous big gift that I give to you to be able to actually get actionable help and strategies specific to your specific situation. So do take me up on my offer. The next one is August the 22nd. It is this week. It is at 6 p.m. Eastern. And the way you sign up for this is message me the word ask on Instagram or Facebook Messenger. We will send you a link for you to register for this month's Ask the Dementia Coach monthly meetup, and I really do hope to see you there. I am here to serve you. I come at this from a servant's heart. I really do want people to come to these because it benefits you as well as gives us real live, authentic content for this podcast, which is wonderful because your specific question, your specific circumstance is appropriate and applicable to other people who are struggling. So please sign up for one of these monthly meetups, and there's no pressure. We can take out all of your identifying details. We can change your name on the Zoom room. It's super easy. We can do it. So please join me this month for our monthly meetup, and I look forward to spending an hour with you and helping you through this particular journey to make it easier for you. So as I end all of my broadcasts or programs, I can never come up with a word, but may the Lord bless you and keep you. And I will see you in the next episode.